This Doesn't Define Me is a feature all about cerebral palsy. In the next 30 minutes, topics and points will be talked about, including the history, people's personal stories with CP, as well as stats and figures. The aim of the next 30 minutes is to spread a message about cerebral palsy and to get people talking about the condition more, so get comfy, we're about to delve right in. I am Lee Beddoe, and this is This Doesn't Define Me. The origins of cerebral palsy came from Dr. William John Little in the mid-1800s. John Little pioneered the study of cerebral palsy using his own childhood disabilities as inspiration. Around 1861, John Little presented research to the Obstetrical Society of London, where he went on to announce the first definition of cerebral palsy. He stated that children with the condition have an injured nervous system that results in spasticity. It would be years later, however, in 1887, before the term cerebral palsy came into play, respectively named by Sir William Osler, who would later research further into CP. It is thanks to innovators like John Little and Sir William Osler for making that starting point for others today to carry the mantle on and to be able to spread further awareness about the condition. There have been breakthroughs in treatments for different types of CP, like early diagnosis. However, if not for the innovators of the past, we would not have the information nor the resources available for today's children to live a relatively normal life with cerebral palsy. This is Emily's story.
I'm Emily, and I was first diagnosed with cerebral palsy when I was 7 months old. The first signs of cerebral palsy for me were when I was born. I was struggling to breathe, and instead of crying, I was screaming, and my breathing sounded like I was making dog noises and dog barking noises because I was having so much trouble breathing. I then spent 2 weeks in the baby care unit with my mum, obviously getting things like tests done, trying to figure out what was going on, and the nurses at first were pretty baffled with what was going on. After further testing, physio kind of appointments, the doctors then realised that I had cerebral palsy, and that was at 7 months old. I was told, my parents were told originally that I would never walk, which for parents is a pretty scary thing. So I was told I wasn't going to be walking. My parents were very, very persistent, and I'm lucky to have a very, very persistent, lovely twin sister who helped me from a very, very, very young age. I was given walking boots because my feet were turned outwards like a penguin, and I was walking kind of, when I tried to walk, I was walking like a penguin. So my parents ordered special walking boots from overseas that helped turn my feet inward so that I could actually stand up and balance and try to walk. I wasn't able to walk fully unaided properly until I was probably about 2, whereas I had aids, and I think I was able to get up and walk, I guess, somewhat normally when I was about 14 months old. My sister Ellen, she helped me a lot. She helped me a lot by, I guess because she's my twin and I wanted to do everything that she could do, I guess. She'd get up and down the stairs and things like that, and I'd try and emulate what she was doing, and she'd do it repetitively, and I'd try and do the exact same thing, which is quite funny. My mum and dad were very persistent and very determined to get me walking and to get me going and everything from a really young age. So we had things like trolleys and stuff for me to push around so that I could try and walk. Even though I had aid, it was helping me get on my feet and walk. I had an occupational therapist come into school, I think once a month maybe, or once every 2 weeks when I was first going to school in the Isle of Man when I was about 3, and that continued all the way up until I left the Isle of Man to go to New Zealand back in 2006. When I was in New Zealand, I had regular physio appointments, regular appointments with the Child Health Centre. They became my health service. I had my pediatrician and stuff like that. Cerebral palsy has affected me in a lot of other ways, not just physically. Cerebral palsy, I developed depression, like severe depression and anxiety from a really young age of 9, and I was put under psychiatrists and psychologists and counsellors. I was then put on antidepressants at a pretty young age of 14, which I'm still on those antidepressants because I'm not gonna lie, like, they make a massive difference and they really do help me function a lot better. My learning has been affected, and probably has been. my numerical functions and stuff are pretty low. My basic math skills have never been great. You know, I had to have a lot of tuition and stuff when I was a kid to try and help me understand basics just so I could pass basic maths in New Zealand. So, I mean, you know, like, my maths is still pretty bad and pretty affected. I still count on my fingers regularly. I get really baffled and frustrated when it comes to anything that's over double digits that I have to add up, because I can't process it. As for my physical side now, I'm so much better. I'm really lucky that my parents were really persistent, that my parents fought to get me physio and to get what I needed to do. You know, from going told that I wasn't going to be able to walk to now I walk, I can dance, you know, like, I've been on the cheer team at university, I've danced, I've done modeling, you know, I act, I run around like an idiot, I'm really energetic, and I'm very thankful to my parents that they fought so hard and that they invested so much time and energy into me, and they believed in me. Like, my mum and dad never told me no, I couldn't do anything. If anything, they encouraged me to go and do the things I wanted to do and to go and do anything. As for today, my flexibility is absolutely shocking. It's horrendous. I can't sit, like, if you ask me to sit on the floor, like, on my bum, I can't sit without my back curving. I can't sit with my back straight. I need aid to do that. I cannot properly cross my legs, and I will never be able to do so. Things like cartwheels and stuff, I do not have the strength. I never will have the strength to do that. I've tried for years, and it's just not gonna happen. Pain wise, if it's my muscles in my legs can get pretty tired when it's cold, if I'm going out for like walks and things, which I really like to do because I like exercising. So that really can affect, you know, what I do, especially if I'm doing like a long hike or something like that. I have to be really careful because I can get to be in a lot of pain, which obviously I can help with things like massages and hot baths and hot showers and painkillers and stuff like that. They all really help, but it's just trying to manage it and trying to make sure that I don't go over my limit, and having to know what my limit is. It's hard, but then I've come such a long way from being told that I wasn't able to walk, I almost basically dying at birth, to being here, to running around, to walking, to dancing, to doing this, that and the other. I feel incredibly lucky. I know there are so many other people out there that are not as lucky and that really do have difficulties walking, talking, and it doesn't make any of them any less or any more than me. You know, we're all equal. Very grateful for the amount of love and support that I've had, and very grateful for where I am today.
Cerebral palsy is a group of disorders that affects a person's ability to move and maintain balance, as well as posture. Cerebral means having to do with the brain, and palsy means weakness or problems using muscles. Cerebral palsy is caused by abnormal brain development or damage to the developing brain. Certain factors put baby or small children at risk of developing CP, which can include a premature birth, low birth weight, or the likes of being a twin or triplet, amongst others. As a result of these birth factors, cerebral palsy can then be caused by asphyxia neonatorum or lack of oxygen, gene mutations that result in abnormal brain development, severe jaundice, or bleeding in the brain, also known as intracranial hemorrhage. Signs a child may have cerebral palsy can include several factors. These can include, but are not limited to, delays in reaching motor skill milestones such as rolling over, sitting up alone, or crawling, variation in muscle tone such as being too floppy or vice versa, being too stiff. There may be delays in speech, excessive drooling, difficulty in walking. Most children with CP may not show signs of the disorder until months or even years later. Treatments can help a lot for children with CP and can include the likes of physiotherapy, speech therapy, and occupational therapy, medication for stiffness, and even Botox to strengthen the legs. These are just a few of the treatment options available for today's children with CP, but again, these aren't just the only choices, but are just a few of the most popular forms of treatment used by doctors to help ease and help the pain of CP. The current UK incident rate is around 1 in 400 births. Approximately 1,800 children are diagnosed with cerebral palsy every year. One person who knows all about the ins and outs of her condition is Chelsea, a young lady who continues to show people that just because she has a disability, it doesn't slow her down too much. This is Chelsea's story.
I'm
I'm Chelsea Copeland. I'm 23 years old. I'll be 24 at the beginning of this coming August. What I know of my diagnosis initially is I was quite young. I was like 15 months old when the first signs of something physical started to be apparent. It was a health visitor that noticed certain things about me that she didn't think were right. My balance and the way that I was progressing as a child wasn't the same as like the milestones they'd expect of your typical baby of that age. If I remember correctly, it wasn't a surefire sign that it was cerebral palsy that was told to my parent when I was 15 months old. The doctors were pretty sure it would be some kind of learning difficulty, or that I might be just slow in how I learn things compared to other children. Like they would see a difference in my development, but disability was a bit of a stretch. It wasn't until I was about 2.5, because that's the typical age when you can see for certain that there is some developmental issues, or the brain damage part of CP becomes more noticeable. I think I began receiving therapy, as in physical therapy like physio, when I started at Horton Lodge Special School. They were determined really to get me more mobile, crawling, sitting up, anything that they could possibly do that made it easier for me to live like a normal child. They had the means to do that though. They had brilliant physios. I remember the exact one that I had, she was called Joanna, and she was just the best person. I think I owe a lot to her, because if she hadn't worked so hard with me, I don't think I would be able to live as freely as I am today. Obviously, I'm fully aware firsthand that CP isn't curable. There's no way I'll live life without any physical problem. But I think it's really important that you have the right support around you in the early stages of when you get diagnosed. If parents of a child with cerebral palsy can get the right doctors and physios, anyone that they have to see, if parents can put full trust in that person and believe that they're doing a good job the way my parents did, it has to be something that parents are comfortable with and they've got faith in, because these are the people they're leaving their child with who's not able to take care of themselves. And I think that's a really big deal, or at least it was for my parents. On a personal level, my parents were really dead set on doing a lot of it themselves. They didn't feel like they needed to adjust or ask for help as much as maybe they should have done, because it was just personally for them. They thought, there's nothing that we can change about the situation that we're in, but she's still our child, so we have to do the best by her. There's so much help out there though. Just because parents might think they need to cope with this big challenge on their own like mine did in the beginning, that's not the case. All the doctors that you get assigned to for this condition, whether it be for the physical stuff like equipment you might need, or adaptations to your house if that's something that's needed, or there's even charities that are willing to help, and carers and all sorts of things. There's respite, which I think is a big one. I've never had that, but there are places that take a child overnight to give parents a break, and the special school that I went to, they had that in place already. They had like bedrooms within the school that children could stay overnight and just give their parents a break, because it's relentless, to be honest. We're dependent on someone at some point in our life, and I just think it must be so challenging for the people that have to deal with it, mainly the parents, because they're there 24/7, and I do think the help is needed. But I understand the mentality that my parents had, that they didn't want to let me down. Cerebral palsy affecting me, I think the biggest memory I have of that is when I was younger. You know, when you get to the age where you just want to go out and be with your friends and do fun things. I always felt different to them, and that was really hard. I used to watch them from the window on their bikes and know that that would be never something that I would get to do. And you really do get in your head about the things you can't change. Even at that young age, I remember just thinking, why does it have to be me? Why can't there be something that I can do to change the way that I am? When I'm out and about, I do notice that people look at me and must think, like, what's wrong with her? And I don't necessarily take it as a bad thing all the time, because I just think when something's different, you naturally notice that. There's no getting past it. It's just how it is. I just think it's that people don't understand. The strangers and what they think are much easier to deal with. I think it's the people that know of me. They're aware of who I am, and I've had this with people that I used to live by. They knew who I was, and they would laugh or make me feel uncomfortable because they didn't like the way I was, and that is just something that's never left me now. I always wonder, when I make friends with someone, are they thinking of me as different to them? I think it plays on your mind so much more when you don't want the disability to be the defining thing of your life. I don't want people to see it and feel sorry for me, because I am just a normal girl. I'm the same as everyone else. I feel the same emotions. There's nothing different about me. It's just that I need a little bit of extra help sometimes. Currently, I'm not able to go to uni or to work because of physical assessments that have put me out of the bracket for funding, which is really disheartening sometimes, because depending on other people to fund what you need to help you just because I have this disability, it's so frustrating. I thought uni would eventually be something that I was ready for. I fell in love with media studies and film and television. I know that I really want to do something within that field, but I wasn't able to go to uni and get the qualifications that I needed. It's funny actually, being held back from doing uni or being able to get a job in the industry at the moment because of the limitations that I have. It's just made media and anything interactive and creative with that world become a hobby for me. I'm constantly watching films and studying the concepts of them, or talking about my favourite TV shows that I love, just trying to get my attitude out there. I'm extremely lucky enough to say that I've built some of the best friendships because of the interests that I have. When I was at college, I met some of the loveliest people, and I think they changed my mind of what I could really be capable of, because becoming a team with them and sharing our talents together, it was just the first time that I'd felt included and almost needed for things that I could do. The biggest aspiration I have now, I feel, is to just keep going, to not give up on that media side of things. I have a real love for writing and crime drama, so script writing for me is something that I really love, and I would love to get to do more of that in any kind of way, even if it's to just do projects with my friends and try and put the talent into that somehow. At the start of this, when I was old enough to understand what it was I actually had and that I would have cerebral palsy for life, I think I missed the idea of what normal would be, what I think normal was, and what society showed me normal was, but I wasn't that. Now I understand it more, and I understand there's things that you can do to be the same as everyone else and get around things. I don't have that defeatist attitude anymore. I try and focus on the positives, and there is something I can do. As long as I put my mind to it and I keep that mentality of being positive and not getting down, then anything's possible. What I mentioned earlier, my friends and my family, they are the inspirations for me. Their attitudes in showing me that I can be whatever I want to be as long as I'm strong, that's the aspiration that I aspire to have, and keep that attitude because it's what they want me to do. Cerebral Palsy has a quote that says, "We don't know how strong we are until being strong is the only choice that we have." That's what I want people to know about me the most. Cerebral Palsy might slow me down or prevent me from doing experience certain things in my life, but it won't stop me fully living my life the way that I want to live it. I want to just be a normal 23, 24-year-old. I want the same experiences that everyone else has, and I just hope to God that I get to fulfill that. The main thing I need to remember is determination does it all, and as long as I don't give up, then life's what I make it, really.
Moving words there from Chelsea, who continues to work hard and not let such a condition hold her back. One of the main points of this feature was to help people understand the facts of cerebral palsy and for people to begin asking questions about CP. Yet still today, CP is a very misunderstood disability and not nearly enough action is taken to help understand the disability. If we don't ask questions, how do we learn and move forward? The next young lady is making it her mission to help people understand the condition that is CP on a new level by spreading the message of CP and trying to make it more of a talkable subject, and maybe one day it won't be so taboo. Although she doesn't suffer with cerebral palsy herself, this is her story of how she met her best friend and spoke out to understand the situation a little better. Here is Chloe and her piece about asking questions above all.
I started college in the September of 2015. I was probably one of the most shyest. I really wasn't confident in myself whatsoever. I left school, obviously, I would definitely say not many friends. So yeah, I was quite shy, and like most 16-year-olds, I would say definitely that I was really naive. Like I said, I started college in the September. I wasn't actually around for the first 2 weeks of college starting, so everybody in my class and my course was, by the time I got there, they were already in their little cliques. Luckily enough, I mean, they were some of the nicest people in college that I met, so it wasn't hard for me to pick up a relationship. Within the college time, I'd actually become part of a group, and Chelsea was actually in this group. There was 2 other girls and a lad, and Chelsea was also in this same group of friends. So I mean, we chatted through this group of friends, but I wouldn't say that I would go out of my way to speak to Chelsea, and it would just happen naturally through the friends. If I just randomly saw her on her own, I don't think I would have spoken to her at that point. It came to the point though where in my head I'm thinking, she seems like a really nice friend, a really nice person when I speak to her in the group. She used to come in early like I did, so my mum used to drop me off early, and she used to come in at the same time roughly. So we kind of, after having conversations in the group and getting to know each other that way, we also have conversations early in the morning when it was just kind of us two. But then for some reason after that, we would go into the class and we would kind of stop talking, which is bizarre. I still find it today bizarre that I did that we spoke and then I just kind of went my own way. I just can't get my head around why I actually did that. I'd say we're about maybe a month and a half into college at this point, and it obviously didn't come to my attention at first. I knew she was different, she was in a wheelchair, but I remember going home to my mum one day and just saying to her, "Mum, there's this girl on the course, she's in the same group of friends that I'm in, so obviously we speak, and she's in a wheelchair," and I distinctively, my mum still remembers this conversation too. I remember saying to my mum, "Mum, like I said, there's this girl on the course and she's in a wheelchair, how do I speak to her? How do I communicate with her?" And I don't mean in the sense that we were already doing that, we were already chatting, but it's not like we were having a one-on-one conversation all the time. It's not like she was my friend, we were just in the same group of friends. And I remember saying to my mum, and I said, "Mum, how do I speak to her? Is there a certain thing that I should say? Is there something that I don't say, I don't?" And my mum sat me down and she said, "Chloe, there's one thing you need to learn, is the fact that she is no different to you in any shape or form." And my mum was just like, "Chloe, honestly, there is nothing different about this girl than you. The only thing that's different is she's got a wheelchair and that's it." Obviously, me being the naive 16-year-old that I was, you're not really taught about things like that from the real world. It's something you kind of have to find your own path for. And so the next day, I just kind of remember sticking with her throughout the day, sort of thing. It was just like a click had happened. It's oh, I've now been given this permission that she's no different than me and I don't need to treat her different. But before this conversation with my mum, for some reason I had in my head that I should treat her differently. And I'm really annoyed with myself because why couldn't I see that she was no different to me? She has the same interests as me. She likes the same things that I do. She's honestly one of the most amazing, caring girls you could wish to meet in your life. And yet, before I had this conversation with my mum, I for sure thought I had to treat her differently. That I couldn't make jokes around her, and it just annoys me that the fact that, and I'm not blaming it on anything, but it's the fact that you're not taught about different people. That's what I'm trying to aim at here. You're not taught about different people in school, or it's something that it's a path you have to find on your own. And I don't think, because obviously in school they try to mould you into be, they say like you're all different people, but I swear in school they mould you to be the exact same copy, replica of everybody else, and they never teach you about different people. There's that. But like I said, going back to Chelsea, there was like a switch momentarily after I had this conversation with my mum about the fact that she's no different. I remember her coming in early the next morning. I came in early too. We sat down, we had this conversation. We just talked about everything until the lecture teachers came in. The other girl and the lad in the group, we just kind of like moulded into this, like, it's going to sound so cliche, but a really nice friend group, something up until uni that I'd never experienced in my life. Honestly, if it wasn't for Chelsea, I genuinely don't think that I'd be the person that I am today. As corny as that sounds, I really don't think I'd be as confident or as me. As corny as that sounds, like I say, it's just, we literally have so much in common. It's actually unreal. And to this day, she is literally my best friend. I call her my biggest fan, actually, because no matter what I do, she's always there. And she is different, but she's not different at the same time. She is no different to me, to you, to the next person. But because she has a disability, she's automatically labelled as, oh, she can't do that because she has that, and she can't do that because she's a certain way. And just because she has this wheelchair and she has this disability, it does not make it any different or have different dreams or different ambitions to anybody in the world. People in job places say that they don't discriminate, and yet Chelsea can't go to uni because she can't get the funding. And I think it's disgusting, really, because sure, she has to get travel and everything for it, but why should that be pointed out? I remember her saying to me that she didn't go to uni because they pointed out something like she would have to have like transport and travel if she would like to go on like day trips and stuff like that. And I feel like that's something that shouldn't be pointed out, because there's always a way around something. So it really annoyed me when she told me that, really, because like I say, it shouldn't be something that was pointed out. It shouldn't be something that she has to now rule out the cards because she has this disability. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Because like I say, she is literally just like me and you and the next person's. And honestly, it really does break my heart because she's such an amazing scriptwriter as well. Literally one of the best I could think of. She's got such a passion for it. And it's hard these days to find somebody that does have passion and it is passionate about what they do. And I can honestly say that is Chelsea. She's literally my biggest fan. That is what I call her. If you asked her what I call her, she would say I call her my biggest fan, because that is what she is. She's always there to support me. No matter what I go through, she'll just drop me a text and she'll just be like, yeah, Chloe, yeah, you got this. And then I kind of feel in my head that I'm really lucky to be in the situation that I am in, and I know others aren't as lucky. And then I think when she texts me, I'm just like, but you can do this. I then get into the right mindset myself, because I know that if she can do it, then I can do it. That one awkward question was the entire icebreaker for me and Chelsea at college. I'm thankful for my mum for talking me out of things, and I'm also thankful to have Chelsea in my life. Like I said, my biggest fan. I don't know what I would do without her. That's my biggest inspiration. I aspire to be somebody like Chelsea, somebody that does things on a whim and doesn't regret it. I want to be like that. And so if I could just say one thing to the rest of the world or whoever will hear this or whatnot, is to ask questions. It's the biggest icebreaker of all. Nobody knows anything about cerebral palsy. Nobody knows anything. It's actually unreal. And I did the slightest research into this subject and I found so much out, and it really annoys me that you hear about other disabilities and other conditions but you don't hear about CP. Why is that? It shouldn't just go on as, oh, that's CP, that's a disability. Nothing can be done about it. Nothing can be done about it. Physically, mentally, everything can change. To start thinking about it and start doing something maybe. just the fact that you're thinking about it is doing something. You're creating a new mindset for yourself, and honestly, it would help so much just for you to know about CP and to help understand. That would be doing your part, and that's something that we all need to do. I can't stress enough the fact that she has her own mindset, and I feel like that's something that we should all have. Chelsea is literally one of the best people that I know. Amazing.
My name is Lee Beddoe, and you have been listening to This Doesn't Define Me.